My name is Malek. I'm from Knack Training, and this is your everyday office video. Today's video is about being able to link a text box in Microsoft Excel with a cell. Now, I'm going to do a couple of different things here, all as part of the same project. But the real key skill that I want to show you here is that you can take data from your spreadsheet and push that into an Excel text box, which can really help out in terms of how your charts look and feel. So let's talk this all the way through. If you have to chart data like this, a lot of people's first inclination is to turn this into a pie chart. So I'm going to click on the data over there on the left side of the spreadsheet, go to my Insert tab at the top of the screen, and I'm going to do what people normally do, which is just choose the type of chart that seems most likely, a pie chart here, for example, and just leave it at that. Okay, so number of responses for each of these different levels. And what this does is it definitely charts the information accurately and gives you a snapshot and allows you to talk over it. You know, let's say I could say, well, here is everybody who says it's excellent. Here's everybody who says it's very good. Here's everybody who says it's good. And so anybody who says adequate or inadequate or very bad, you can see is that very small piece of the pie there. But the problem is, if that's the conversation you want to have, this broken up data is actually kind of difficult to process because you have to mentally add this slice of pie to this slice of pie and decide whether the gray slice of pie should be added to the smaller pieces or to the bigger pieces. And so you leave a lot up to your imagination. So the first step that I want to throw at you here is that I would decide in this example not to chart the data in a raw way, the way it is now, but instead to go ahead and make something that's more approachable and simple. And so what I'm going to do very simply here is put in a new table with an answer and a number of responses. But this time around, I'm just going to say positive and negative. And by simplifying the data down to just, did they have a positive or a negative response, this is going to give me a lot simpler, clearer information to present to people. So all I'll do here to make this happen is just equal sign sum for these cells here, for excellent, very good, and good, which gives me 1,339. And then equal sign sum for the values that are adequate through very bad. And what I'm doing here, the first level, is that I'm simplifying things so that people don't have to ask themselves the question, does adequate count as a good value or a not good value? Is good really good, or is it more towards the bad end of things? If you are telling people, listen, as far as we're concerned, we got 1,339 positive responses and 143 negative responses, you're doing that math for them. Now, the nice thing that you can do here is now that you have just two values, I'm going to go up to the Insert tab, go back to that same pie chart idea. Now, I'm not going to go with pie chart, which would actually work very well here. Instead, I'm going to go down here to what they call the donut chart. And for a long time, I used to think the donut chart would be a silly option for what I'm charting here, but watch what happens in a minute once I choose this donut option. So first thing I'll do is choose the donut option and kind of clean up the chart a little bit. I don't need the title up at the top. I don't need the positive and negative down here. I can kind of shrink that down a bit. And now what I'm going to do, if you don't know this keyboard shortcut, this is one for your toolbox. Control-1 on your keyboard is to format anything. So if I click on this little donut chart right here, if I've selected the donut chart and I use the keyboard shortcut Control-1, that opens up the formatting options for the chart. And all I wanted to do is take the size of the donut hole and make it a little smaller, maybe around 50%. Now, once I've done that, let's think through labeling this information. If I click on to, let's say, this big slice of pie here that's taking up about 90% of the donut. I could go to my Design tab at the top of the screen, go to Add Chart Element, and I could add data labels. I could add a little data call out like this, and it would put a little box in there, and that would be good. But instead, I'm not going to go with something that is directly connected to the chart itself with this little pointer in here. Instead, I'm going to delete that. So I'm just using my delete key to get rid of it. Now, instead of using that call out, I'm going to go over here to the side in the cell F5. I'm going to do one more leg of this. I'm going to say equal sign, this value right here, cell E5, divided by the sum of E5 through E6 to give me 90.90351. I'm going to go back to that value, and I'm just going to hit the little percentage sign up here to format it. So now this says 90%. Why am I taking the time to do this? Because in the future, if I come back and I say, oh, actually, we came back with statistics that say 697 people said excellent, and 481 people said very good, and 257 people said good, and 91 people said adequate, and 46 people said inadequate, and 13 people said very bad. I want these things to recalculate consistently. So now it says 91%. I don't want to have to type this out by hand because I don't want to guarantee that it'll always be 90%. I want it to be constantly recalculating. Now, what does this do for me? I go up to my Insert tab at the top of the screen. I click on my text drop-down menu over here on the right-hand side. If you have a different resolution on your screen, you might not have a drop-down menu. You may just be able to go to Text Box. So I click on Text Box, and now I can click and drag to draw whatever size text box I want. And it might occur to you that I would be, typing in 91% here, but instead, here's the thing I wanted to use. I'm selected in the text box right here. I click in the formula bar, and I type in equal sign and select cell F4. See right there? So what I've done is I've said the text box, the value in the text box is now equal to whatever's in cell F5. I hit enter, and sure enough, the 91% that I see on the spreadsheet is now in my text box. Now, with a little bit of formatting, I can grab this text box, sort of place it on top of the chart like this. And I'm going to do the following things. First, I don't want a background color. So I'll go up here to the Format tab. I'll say fill it with no fill. I'll say outline it with no outline. I'll go back to the Home tab and I'll decide to center the text and then center it in the middle of the text box and then increase the font size and bold it. And now look at the difference in those two things. We originally had a pie chart where we had a lot of different data points. We had to leave it up to the audience to compare, to add these things together. And then we also had the ability to do these callouts where it was kind of a box that was connected to the donut chart itself. Instead, we've gone with a simplified version of the data. We said, what we care about is 1,435 positive responses versus 150 negative responses. And that gives us a value of 91%. We show that very clearly with two data points on the donut chart with a giant 91% right in the middle. And the beautiful part is that this text box is connected to this calculation that's right here on my spreadsheet. So the minute that I get 742 excellent responses, and then 506 very good responses, and 284 good responses, still not high enough, 535 very good responses. Oh, we're getting there. 852 excellent responses. There we go. We finally crossed over to 92%, and the 92% in the middle of your donut chart is exactly duplicated from that data. Beautiful.